People, I can't read their address, so I'm going to ask them to send them to you.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. We're on.
We're on? See? This is my Christmas dance. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Quantum Catechesis. I'm Father Joe Krupp, and you are not. In anticipation of this glorious season, I did my dance.
We're lucky it only comes once a year.
Yeah, Dad is so grateful Christmas only comes once. So I'm so happy to see you guys. I'm kind of fired up for today's show. You know how much I love history and how much I love to talk about it. As for you, I just assume whenever you hear me say something about history, and I understand. But here's the key. This is why they pay me the big bucks. And by pay me, I get coffee. Before I launch this missile, I gotta ask two people to help me out. So, believe it or not, I think I have all my thank yous set up. But Nora, you know who you are. I can't read your street name. And I wanna send you a thank you, but there might be another Nora in your city who gets it and it's like, who's this loser? So I don't want to say her last, I don't know. But Nora, I can't read your last name, or I can say your last name, but I can't read your street address. So if you could help me out with that, just let Carrie know, and I'll be sure and get you one. And that's also true, the Elston family, Elston, sent me an insane amount of yummy goodness. Like, there were levels. There were 4 levels. I'm dead serious. And it's like each one you peel open, and then you peel the next one, and each one it got higher. I can't find your address. So if you two could help me out, that'd be awesome, because I want to send you a nice thank you. And if you don't get a thank you by the end of January, you need to let me know, because I didn't send you one. That's just a fact. I think I got everybody so far. Holy cow, you people are crazy. Thank you. My gosh. I have put on 18 pounds since 9 a.m. I've had enough sugar for the last week. I'm never asking you people I'm never joking about cookies again. You know what I mean? Like, I could right now, and I've eaten half of them. You could dig a grave, lay my corpse in there, and fill it with the cookies I've still got to go. And I look at that pile of cookies, I'm like, challenge accepted. You know, and Dad's asked, hey, I'm gonna have one of those cookies. I'm like, did it say Gordon on the cookie? So thank you guys. And even my beautiful little knucklehead Maria says happy. He's laying here with a bone in front of him, a bone behind him, and probably one under him. You people are, thank you. My gosh, thank you. So one of the things, what we're gonna do today, and I don't know how long this will take. So there might be time for questions and there might not. But there will certainly be, I guess, I don't know, certainly. I hope I have an opportunity to answer your questions about what we're talking about as we go. Does that make sense? Okay. So here's the deal. You guys may remember I'm a minor historian. I love to read history. I obsess over history. I listen to lectures on history. And one of the things I was taught was that the Christmas, December 25th, coincided with a pagan Roman feast, that basically the Christians took the Roman feast, kind of poured some holy water on it. I'll baptize you. And again, to be honest, I don't care. But I've actually taught what I was taught. One time, I think I wrote an article about it. And of course, I'll always get letters that say, oh, that article was great, thank you. Yep, and yay. And I'll always get letters of, you hate God and you should die, you faithless modernist. No, thank you. I mean, I should die. I will die. I don't know when. If I find out, I'll let you know. But I did get, when I wrote one on Christmas, I want to note, because I got 100 emails on that, 2 that were beautiful. And that were like, hey, Father, I thought that too, but it turns out we were taught wrong. What a great way to approach it. And so what I want to do today is teach you guys what I have learned about why we celebrate Christmas on December 25th. And is it the actual date of Jesus' birth? All kinds of different things. And what I'll try to mention is some of the theories and walk through them. Now, what we got to do is I got to give you, what did I write down? 4 points that are really important to contextualize our conversation, okay? So first of all, let's do the first point. It's kind of one of these funny things where people will be like, well, all Christians did was take pagan feasts and turn them Christian. And I'm like, oh, okay, I don't know what the problem is. I have no problem with that. That's actually, yeah, that's what happened sometimes. And I don't see how that weakens Christianity. It was funny, there was this woman who she was running a Twitter account, and it's clearly geared toward single atheist men who are looking for a woman to send money to. And she had this whole thing about, oh, all your Christian Christmas celebrations are filled with pagan imagery. I'm like, yeah, Why? Well, go find the pagan religion that started them, because they were gone. Christianity won. Thank you. And if you're watching this and you're like, you're a pagan and you haven't defeated me yet, we're coming. We have albino monk assassins outside of your location right now. That's a joke. Of course we sometimes did that. Of course people sometimes did that as a sign of their submission to God. I don't care, right? And I don't know how that weakens Christianity. So that's point number 1. Point number 2, I gotta tell you, some of the stories out there about Christian feasts being pagan ones reborn are totally made up. There's one that's very popular right now about Easter, about a pagan feast in England called a story, and blah, 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 and hiding of eggs. There is literally no mention of that until a fictional book written in the late 1990s. And for some reason, that appears to be the beginning of this idea of, oh, Easter, the date of it, the way we celebrate it, it's all pagan from this feast called a story. That is completely made up. You will find 0 historical reference to it. And the ones that say, oh yes, it started in England, just as how long do you think it took Easter to get to England? Now seriously, think about it, geographically. If we didn't pick a date for Easter until Christianity took over England, then we weren't celebrating Easter for hundreds of years of Christianity. Okay? And there's a ton of these out there, mostly around Mithra, the worship of Mithra, and those are always funny. Number 3, feast days for the church and birthdays are not related at all. They never have been. For example, St. Ambrose, his feast day is December 7th, right? But his birthday is April 4th. You usually celebrate the day they died, or the day they won that one bet. I'm just kidding. Ambrose wasn't a gambler. Augustine was. For us, feast days have no connection to birthdays, and they never have, that I know of. I don't know of any saint feast who's celebrated on their birthday unless it's also the day they were killed, as happened with Saint Similarius. I made that up. Number 4, exact time and dating in the time of Jesus was an elusive concept at best. Why? Because the way we circle the sun, okay, our little globe with our little wobble and our elliptical orbit, it's not circular, it's elliptical. So, you know, we still can't pull it off. Think of it this way. We have a leap year. Think of how weird that is. What is it, every 4 years? We like just say, oh, these days don't happen this year, right? Why? It's a little tough to do. Now, jump back to the time of, say, Julius Caesar. who had to correct the calendar, right? The Romans did this periodically, quote, corrected the calendar because they had the days wrong. And what would happen? They'd all of a sudden stop and look and say, we're planting crops in October. Maybe we're off. And then some proclamation come out, it's May. It's May now. It's May. That's how it worked. Why? Because even again, we say 365 days in a year. Well, except some years. This happens a lot, particularly in the day of before Julius Caesar, the days before him. He fixed the calendar a bit, and then Pope Gregory fixed it up a lot. But it just was hard for them to figure out. And so they did their best, but they also got it wrong. And so it's tough for us to nail down exact dates. And even sometimes you'll find years. You'll find that sometimes the Romans will say, well, we met on the field of battle on this day, and that the battle ended 3 months later. No, it's because they corrected the calendar. It was the same day. You get me? Okay. Oh, we have something from Sister Teresa. My Teresa? Okay. St. John the Baptist is celebrated on his birthday. Nice. Way to go, J the B. I just made that up. And don't forget, John the Baptist and Billy the Kid, same middle name. So what we'll do now is enter an extended discussion about when thank you, Dad, about...
It takes me 5 minutes to catch.
Dad, and I have to tell you, poor Dad. So I got a new vehicle, and I had to take Marius's huge bed out of the vehicle. And now it's in here. This is his huge bed. And what that's done is shoved my beautiful father into this corner. And he did. He pointed out, he goes, once I sit down, I'm here, right? So Dad is here. Even if the show stinks, he's stuck here. So pray for him. Okay, so what I'm gonna do now is walk us through, and I gotta tell you, there's a guy named Jimmy Aiken. He is 90% of my info on this. And he's the guy who, if I may, intellectually converted me. And I found his points and his arguments so compelling that I could sit here all day and try to rework what he wrote, but all I really did was change the order of the information, pared it down, and added some of my own stuff. But Jimmy Aiken is my primary source on this, okay? So, first of all, let's look at this. Why doesn't the Bible tell us Jesus' birthday? Why doesn't the Bible just say December 25th, the year I'm just kidding. Because Jews didn't do birthdays. It just wasn't important. In fact, the date of birth wasn't considered important at all. The fact that you were born was nice, but you might say, well, I was born 15 summers ago. But that was really about it. In fact, Jewish culture has always been a bit ambivalent about birthdays. Why? This is kind of crazy, okay? You've got rabbis who argue that you should never celebrate birthdays, right? That it's a Gentile custom. Why would that be a sin? Well, this is kind of funny. Are you ready for this? And I never caught this. In the Hebrew scripture, the Old Testament, there's only one birthday mentioned. Do you know this? And it's the Pharaoh. Like the guy who they hated, okay? The guy they hated is the only one whose birthday is mentioned in the whole Old Testament. Pharaoh was born on such and such day. So they look at that and they said, let's not do birthdays. Lots of oppressive rulers of the Jews celebrated birthdays. And even, you gotta love the Romans for this. Sometimes an emperor would celebrate a birthday 12 times a year, right? And there was a party. Like in the time of the book of Maccabees, right? When the Jews were fighting the Greeks, the Greek invasion, this is from 2 Maccabees 6, quote, on the monthly celebration of the king's birthday, The Jews were taken under bitter constraint to partake of the sacrifices. So what the Roman or Greek kings would do is say, well, we're celebrating my birthday again this month. You should make a sacrifice to me. And the Jews wouldn't do it. And the Jews got killed for not doing it. Okay? Roman emperors did this too, and it always involved idol worship. So you can see why the Jews were like, we're not fans of birthdays. And plus, and I hate being this guy, but don't forget the infant mortality rate. Don't forget how few children born lived to 12 years old. Very few, or a low percentage, let's say. And forgive me, kids were a drain. There was, forgive me, they were investments. They were practical when they turned 12. But before that, you only celebrated kids because of what they'll become. Adults that can feed you, right? When you're too old to work. And I know that sounds terrible, but that was life, hey? That's how it went. Kind of funny, there's only one birthday mentioned in the New Testament. Do you know this? Herod Antipas, right? What he was known for is making salads. That's why we call it antipasta. Sorry. I'm not really sorry. What do we know about Herod? Oh, I don't know. He killed John the Baptist, who's the only saint whose birthday is on his feast day. Do you ever wonder if Jesus gets irritated because his birthday is on Christmas and he gets less presents? I had a buddy in school who had his birthday on Christmas, and you're like, dude, that sucks. It's less presents. It has to be. Yeah. So here's the key. I'm sorry. Birthdays just weren't a big deal in that culture. They just weren't. And it wasn't like Mary would have went, December 25th, right? I didn't care. He was born in the winter. And for the rest of his life, when was he born? 20 winters ago. At best, if even that. They just didn't. There's a Christian writer named Origen who sat at the feet of John the Apostle. Okay, so you had John the Apostle. His chief student was a dude named Origen who should be a saint. Did you know about this? Do you know why he's not a saint? This is really...
I need to know now.
Yeah, he castrated himself.
Oh.
And, yeah, like, ow. And the church says you can't mutilate your body like that. So he's not a saint because they don't want to endorse bodily mutilation. Isn't that? It's like, bro, ow. Back then, even. Okay, we're done. But Origen is very important to us. He wrote a lot of stuff, but this is a letter he wrote or a homily he gave in 241 AD. Okay, quote. Not one from all the saints is found to have celebrated a festive day or a great feast day on the day of his birth. No one is found to have joy on the day of the birth of his son or daughter. Only sinners rejoice by marking their birthdays. Indeed, we find in the Old Testament Pharaoh, king of Egypt, celebrating the day of his birth with a festival. And in the New Testament, only Herod did such a thing. However, both of them stained the festival of their birth by shedding innocent human blood. For the Pharaoh killed the chief baker, Herod, the holy prophet John, in prison. But the saints not only do not celebrate a festival on their birthdays, but filled with the Holy Spirit, they curse that day. Holy crap, Origen, chill out, bro. Well, so I wanted to get that in your head, that when people, well, why don't we know his birthday? Because they didn't care. And not only did they not care, we see all kinds of stuff where it's clear they kind of found the idea contemptuous. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I've had people tell me, well, it can't be December 25th, or because of a really odd line. And I just saw an article about this 3 days ago, and it was kind of funny. And what is their point? Why could it not have been December 25th? Because it says clearly in the Gospel of Luke that on the night of Jesus' birth, December 25th, the angels appeared to shepherds, quote, keeping watch over their flock. And everyone's argument. No one would have their sheep out in the winter snow at night, or even in the winter snow, where do you think they put them? I don't mean to be cold, right? You think, well, they built large warehouses. No, they didn't, right? I don't know if you're familiar with this material people wear when it's really cold. It's called wool. And you wear it because it keeps you from getting cold. And you know where we get wool? Sheep. They're not just for breakfast anymore. It really is a stupid heart. Is that terrible to say? I'm sorry. And clearly this person thought they were very smart. And I'm like, oh, you're a city boy. The person who wrote it, what a city boy. Sheep don't care. They're basically indestructible. I mean, they're dumb as rocks, but they are tough. And again, wool. So, and again, where do you put them? Oh, it's winter. Let's put the sheep in storage. Outside's your only choice. You're not going to put them in the house with you. They're filthy and they're nasty animals. They're really cantankerous, right? You always see, I used to go off on this during homilies, but then I found out people got offended. But like, we always see these cute furry sheep. Have you seen sheep? They're mean and they're dumb. I mean, they're clever about getting food. Oh, very clever. Anyway, you're not going to put one in the house. They stink, okay? And again, they're surly. I remember the first time I saw a sheep was at Mr. Key's. And I was like, oh, I get to see sheep. I was a kid, and this sheep is there, tattooed up, smoking, bah! So, I'm sorry. I try not to say things are dumb. The whole sheep would never be outside. Where are you going to put them? On January 16th of 1967, Jimmy Akin points this out. A guy named William Hendrickson received a letter from Harry Mulder, who was also went on to star in a TV show. Yeah, the truth is out there. Harry Mulder was a New Testament scholar who was teaching in Beirut. And he wrote this letter on January 16th, pointing out that he is in Bethlehem. Quote, right near us are a few flocks of sheep nestled. Even the lambs are not lacking. It is definitely, therefore, not impossible that the Lord was born on December 25th. So that was just a letter a dude wrote. So apparently this argument's been around a bit, and it is funny. All you can do is stop and think. Again, where do you put them? Well, it's winter. Let's fold the sheep up. Maybe they put them in those things like when you make jerky and you put them in a zip and it sucks all the air out. What is that? Freeze dry? Vacuum seal. They vacuum seal the sheep. Some people say, again, it was December 25th was picked because it was a pagan feast, and I already told you, who cares, right? But Jimmy Akin points this out. Well, to sustain the claim that Christian Christmas date is based on a pagan feast, we got to figure out a couple things, right? Which pagan feast? And we got to show that how Christians changed it from a pagan feast, because people would notice, right? This, hey, we're celebrating such and such God. Not anymore. What? People get a little, yeah. Can I say pissy? Is pissy a bad word? I don't know. Is it? People would get angsty. Like, right? Because that always I gotta go on this, all right? Because I've had too much sugar and now I'm adding caffeine. But this is funny. You ever read all those little conspiracy theories about how Constantine took over Christianity and changed it and all this? And it's like, so their theory is, right, that you have potentially hundreds of thousands of Christians in the Roman Empire. And if you're a Christian at this point, you're willing to die for Christianity, right? Because they kill you for it. But somehow, when an emperor went, we're changing everything, they all went, oh, super. That's great. It's just so weird to me. Every conspiracy theory falls apart when you think about human nature.
Yeah.
Right? Like somebody else killed Kennedy. And nobody talked? Nobody? World Trade Center was an inside job. And nobody talked? Like, nobody? I can't go to the bathroom during Mass without 75 people talking about it in 20 minutes. Father's sick. No, Father has to pee. Right? If one person knows, it might be a secret. If two people know, it's information. Yeah? It's information. Could you keep that secret? Hey, just real quick, at work, before you go home for the day, we're going to kill about 3,000 Americans and blame it on some Arabs. You good with that? Just don't tell. Okay. Sorry. All right. So anyway, so let's take a look at what pagan feast, because this is the one I always bought. We trumped Saturnalia. Okay, what is Saturnalia? It was a Roman holiday celebrating the Roman god Saturn. You see something over there. What do you see?
It's all good.
Carrie,
I
see
thought the
something?
light was tippy.
Oh, nice.
Oh, am I hitting it?
Go away from the light. Go away from the light. No, I think you're fine.
There you go. Good.
Right when someone's dying, run away from the light. Okay. Sorry, you guys. I know you're looking for a professional presentation, but I don't have those. So the Roman god Saturn, the Romans had this big old feast, okay? And it was kind of funny. Every culture had a feast right around December 17th or 18th. Why? Because that was the first, what do you say? It was the last darkest day. Starting between December 17th and 18th, every day it gets a little lighter, right? So they would have a big feast. Why? Well, because it's getting a little lighter. But more than that, there was a practical element to it. So if you're in that time, remember there's no refrigerators, okay? And they didn't even really have a means to cool food like super, super, super rich Romans could get ice, but not much. And you know they did it by, anyway, sorry. Okay, stop. I was gonna tell an ice story. Really? Okay, so if you look at the Roman aqueducts, are people interested in this? This is so unrelated. Okay, it is probably one of the greatest engineering feats humanly possible at that time. If I remember right, it's 3 foot 1 inch. Namely, every 3 foot of aqueduct drops 1 inch, and you're talking miles. Think about how crazy that is, that the Romans could do this. And it was moving water from mountaintops to the city, okay? For ice, you actually had to send someone with a cart up to the top of the mountain, who would then chip and chisel huge chunks of ice in the Mediterranean, then put it on your cart, cover it with sawdust, and then cart it back down. And whatever ice made it there, that's what you got. And it might last a day or two, but that was your best shot. Okay, so why are we talking about this? Oh, because, so what would people do? You harvest and you hoard. After you harvest, you hoard, and you need everything to last you until the next harvest, or until other ports open up and start sending you goods to buy. How we doing? Okay. Well, of course, when you hit this date, now you have to eat everything that's going to go bad. All the meat, right? You don't have meat after this unless you're crazy rich. You aren't going to have meat again until the spring. So they would just eat like crazy people and party for days, right? And it was just kind of a shake your fist at the darkness and all kinds of cool stuff. So anyway, the Romans celebrated this. Every major culture had a feast between December 17th till December 23rd, usually. And that's when the Romans did Saturnalia. The problem is, it ended, the absolute latest the Feast of Saturnalia ended was December 23rd. And Christmas is December 25th. And you might think, well, that's, just a couple days. But that's a couple days. And again, there is no historical record of a conversation anywhere about, well, let's bump off Saturnalia and put in Christmas. And frankly, Saturn wasn't that big of a god to them, right? Jupiter was something optimist, the greatest and the best. Jupiter was the greatest and the best. Mars was the god of war, so they loved him. Venus, the god of love. Pluto was kind of the god of the underworld. They had all these. Saturn was just, way to go, Saturn. So it can't be Saturnalia because it's on the wrong date. And again, nobody commented on it. Somebody would have commented on it. And you might think, well, maybe the records got lost. Yeah, but if you study Roman history, they kept records. And you got to remember, when they would make a decree, it would have to go out, and it would go a million places. We have letters that emperors before this wrote that you can go read in a museum. I mean, they kept stuff. And it would be hard to not find something that says, well, the church has decided that we will celebrate Jesus' birth over the Feast of Saturnalia. What we do know is Christians celebrated Saturnalia and then had Christmas. Okay. Some people will tell you it is the feast of Sol Invictus, right? Invictus is Latin for unconquerable or unconquered, and Sol is the sun, the feast of the unconquered sun. And Sol Invictus was celebrated on December 25th, but the earliest record of it that we have comes from the 4th century. Okay? So, quote, this is where most people get it from, that in 354, the chronography of that year records, quote, the birthday of the unconquerable was celebrated on December 25th. So one said, oh, see, that was Sol Invictus. But guys, it was a Christian document, not a pagan one. They wouldn't have celebrated the feast of a pagan god. They would have celebrated it for Jesus, who they called unconquerable. Does this make sense, Karen? Yeah. And also, in that document, it elsewhere says, as we celebrate Christ's birth on December 25th. So people have looked at the first part and maybe not finished reading it. Not to be funny, but the chronology. We celebrate the birthday of the unconquerable on December 25th. And everyone said, oh, unconquerable, Invictus, Sol Invictus. But as you keep reading, they refer to it again. We celebrate the birth of Christ on December 25th. Okay. So, and again, there's no record of it. There's no record of anyone anywhere making a decision. And again, if you know the church, and if you know Romans, they kept records. And the church keeps records. And you may think, well, maybe they didn't want people to know. How would they not know? Hey, remember this huge feast where you celebrated the pagan, Sol Invictus? Yeah, we're killing it. It's now Jesus' birth. People would have noticed. And Christianity really wasn't, numbers-wise, a big religion. They had no influence at this time. No one cared what they thought. They were a small group of freaks, right? Just like now. So, if Christians were subverting Sol Invictus, and this is again Aiken, he points out, somebody would have wrote about it. Somebody would have said, this is what we're doing. But what seems clear is no, December 25th is when he was born. Now, you know who weighed in on this, and I didn't know this. Again, Jimmy Aiken found it. Pope Benedict the 16th, my boy. This is what he wrote in his book, Spirit of the Liturgy. Quote, the claim used to be made that December 25th developed in opposition to the Mithric cult, or as a Christian response to the cult of the unconquered sun promoted by Roman emperors. However, these old theories can no longer be sustained by historical research. Because again, you might think, well, the church is just saying that. No, she doesn't care. There's literally not one document in our 2,000-year history that says we believe Jesus was born on December 25th. No, we believe that's when we celebrate his birth. Okay? In a good way. We don't care. Because nobody cared back then. So, yeah, okay. Now, you can find church documents about the liturgical celebration, how we're supposed to celebrate Christmas, when, December 25th, but you will not find one magisterial document that says this is a church teaching. Jesus was born on December 25th. Okay? You just won't find it. So what do? We do a couple things. One, let's be clear. We do know when he was born, year-wise. We figured that out. And when I say we, I mean me. In my award-winning book, Things I Never Wrote. Here's what you do. What? Carrie's laughing. Okay. Some people say, well, Jesus was born around 6 or 7 BC. That's wrong. Okay? And no offense or anything. It's just, you're evil. No, what it is it's based on the idea that Herod died in 4 BC, and Jesus must have been born 2 years later, since when Herod ordered Jesus to be killed as a kid, Matthew 2 says, quote, Herod killed all the male children in Bethlehem and in that region who were 2 years old or under. That's the part of Christmas that we really don't get into. Right? But that when Jesus was born, it took the wise men a couple years to get there, and that when they bumped into Herod and he found out, he ordered, well, then kill every baby in that area, 2 years old or younger. And he did. The Romans have that record too. But what we know is Herod actually died in 1 BC. 1 BC. If you look at the Gospels, John the Baptist began his ministry, this says in Luke, quote, in the 15th year of the reign of Tiberius Caesar, end quote. And that it says Jesus was baptized, quote, shortly after. And then it says that Jesus started his ministry, quote, at about 30 years of age. So what do? You subtract 30 years from AD 29. Then, since there's no year 0, you land in 2 BC. Right? There's no year 0 BC. Does that help? Or no?
Yeah.
So Jesus was born in 2 BC at 1:40 in the morning. I'm just kidding. I'll be honest, I made that up. Right, even the way they did time during the day, they just did it by watch. There was first watch, second watch, third watch, fourth watch. That's it. They didn't have o'clocks. So, yeah, Jesus was born in 2 BC. And how do we know that? Well, again, they give us hard data. The 15th year of the reign of Tiberius Caesar. Who was Tiberius Caesar? He was the stepson of, what's his butt? Caesar Augustus, right? Caesar Augustus married, not Attia, that was his mom. He did not marry his mother. Attia was Caesar Augustus's mom. Caesar Augustus married, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm freezing. Livia. There we go. He married Livia, okay? But Livia already, am I saying this right? I think I'm saying this right. So Livia was Tiberius's mom, but Augustus was not his dad. And Augustus and Livia had kids of their own, but all the boys died in different ways. So he had to put Tiberius in there, which he did not want to do. And Tiberius was a wreck of a human. I mean, a wreck of a human. Have you ever read about him?
No.
Here's how bad he was. When he died, the cry through the streets was, to the Tiber with Tiberius, I mean the Tiber River, and they threw his body in the water. They mutilated it and threw it in the water. He was a freaky dude. Okay, so what we know then is Jesus was born in 2 BC, and this agrees with the church fathers. When we say church fathers, for us Catholics, this is crazy important, all right? We go by the Bible and, quote, sacred tradition. Sacred tradition is a lot of things, but in this case, it's primarily what did the 2nd and 3rd generation of Christians teach? Because they were right next to the ideal. John taught, what's his name? Origen. Origen taught this guy. So that group of 3 we consider super important. And if it is then in uniformity with what they were teaching over there and they were teaching over there, sacred tradition. If it's important, right? What are we doing? So did that help? How are we? We got 2 BC, and we did it by math, and we find that all the church fathers said the same thing. 2 BC. Happy birthday, Jesus. So I don't know if you want to get into this. I mean, but there are big biblical arguments where we think you can do some math and figure out when Jesus was born, but they're pretty convoluted. And if you want, I can walk you through one. I don't know if that appeals to you. But the key is this. It's really hard to tell. We don't know. One of the ways they can do it, and I don't remember this argument, so don't ask any follow-up questions, has to do with when the star appeared in the sky, right? The star was, what's her name? Venus, obscuring Mars, right? The god of love, eclipsing the god of war, right? Mars was super important to the Romans. They loved him. Right, do you know, did I ever talk about this?
Nope.
So, like, the field of Mars was this huge area in the center of the city of Rome where the armies gathered before they went off and killed everybody and took their stuff. And they would just stand there, records say, and just scream, Mars, Mars. Numerous prayers have been found where Roman soldiers would take the blood of their enemies and like put it on their face and scream, Mars, look at me, right? They loved him. He was the god of war, the red planet filled with the blood of their enemies. And for when Venus eclipsed Mars, if I remember this right, that was considered huge and a fairly rare cosmic event, if I remember right. And that's what led the wise men. They look at that and they say, well, when did they see the star? And you can get like within a couple days, right? I've read that. Again, if you want, guys, just let me know. I can walk you through one of the biblical theories and give you a sense of why it's so hard to tell. And again, most of it based on this. And I know you're going to laugh. No one cared. It would be like, come Holy Spirit, someone trying to figure out your first day of school 2,000 years from now, right? They might be able to, well, I guess it'd be, oh, we got a question? All right. Dear Father, you are so very pretty. Okay, no one said that, I'm gonna be honest. Okay. I don't know where I am. There I am. I got you. Many, many years ago, we took our children to the MSU. Yes, that's God's birthday, the founding of MSU. We took our children to the MSU planetarium to see a program called The Christmas Star. They said it was in March when the shepherds were in the field, so that was probably when Jesus was born. Yeah, there's a billion theories, right? And all of the troubles are based on the fact, and I know I keep saying this, but it's just no one cared. It wasn't a date. Yeah, okay.
So you're saying that Jesus may or may not have been 30 when he started public ministry.
Yeah.
The important part was that it lasted 3 years.
Right.
Okay.
And Hebrews tended to use numbers more for their, or maybe, I don't know, I'll double check on this. It seems at least numbers were at least equally important for what they symbolized as they were for how many it was.
Okay, gotcha.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
So when you see 7, they're not necessarily saying there weren't 6 or 8 people there. There were 7. They might be saying there was the right amount of people there. Yeah. So Jesus being 30 would put him before old man status, wise old man status. A guy in 30 would be considered in his intellectual and moral prime, right? He got married like 14, 15 years old back then. Isn't that weird? Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to skip then walking you through some of the biblical theories because I assume no one cares. I don't know. What? No?
I mean, maybe one.
All right. You want to do one?
Yeah.
Okay. Guys, this is convoluted. And once I start, if you're like, this is terrible, you have to stop me. Right? Just do this. All right, John the Baptist's dad, Zechariah. That's who we start with. It says he belonged to the priestly course of Abijah. That's Luke 1:5. One of 24 priestly courses that served in a regular rotation. Now, after his vision where the Lord told him, your wife's gonna have a baby, it says he returned home to his wife Elizabeth, and she became pregnant, okay? Then it says, quote, in the 6th month of her pregnancy, Gabriel appeared to Mama, Mary, and announced Jesus' conception, okay? So, Jesus' birth would have occurred 15 months after Zechariah's service ended, and we can determine the date that happened. If we can determine that date, we can figure out when Jesus was born. Oh, really? Oh, bless you guys. Okay. There's 6 problems with this, okay? First, the priestly course served at the temple twice a year. We'd have to guess which of the 2 he was serving, right? He had to do 2 rotations. And we'd have to guess, which gives us a 6-month gap. 2, scholars aren't sure when each priestly course was on duty. They argue about this stuff because they're losers, okay? And you got to remember, some Jewish years, the way they made up for the weird things their calendar would do because they haven't figured out your leap year, they just made up a month every once in a while, right? And isn't that weird? But they would just go, this is the month, blah, blah. We will celebrate. There is a way to do it. You're supposed to, I forget what it is. The French figured it out. Leave it to the French. But there's a way you can do it where weeks have 4 or 5 days, months have 5 weeks or something. They have it worked out where we don't have to do a leap year, but for some reason no one will change it. Okay. Third, excuse the crudeness, that theory is all predicated on this idea. Zechariah gets his vision, goes home, and his wife's pregnant that night. Props to Zechariah, but that doesn't always happen. And it says that Elizabeth became pregnant, quote, after those days. So sometime after he got home. Doesn't say that night. Because who knows how long it took him to get home. Fourth, the argument assumes that Gabriel appeared to Mary exactly 6 months after John's conception, but that's not what Luke says. He says the angel appeared, quote, in the 6th month. So now that's a 30-day gap, right? In the 6th month. Fifth, see what I mean? Is this boring?
No.
Okay. The argument assumes Mary conceived the second the angel spoke to her. But the gospel doesn't say that. Gabriel says to her, quote, you will conceive. And this guy goes through the Greek, right? Because Greeks have a word for everything. If it was at this moment you have conceived, he would have said it. Okay. Sixth, finally, the argument assumes Jesus was in the womb exactly 6 months, or 9 months, but he wasn't German. Dad giggled.
Yeah.
But the average human gestation period, it says here, is 40 weeks from last ovulation. I'm uncomfortable. So given 4-week months, that would be around 10 months, thus the book of okay, blah, blah, blah. Does that help? This is how hard it is to figure this crap out because they didn't care, right? I can't say that enough. So it can get us some of the way there. And then Aiken goes through this whole thing and basically points out it seems pretty clear Jesus was born sometime between December and February. Okay, December and February. And so what do we got? What did the early Christians write about that? In 194, Clement of Alexandria, a great saint, stated that, quote, from the Lord's birth to the death of the Emperor Commodus. Okay, you remember Commodus, worst emperor Rome had, right? That was Marcus Aurelius's biological son. Do you know about him? He's hilarious. I mean, he's a wreck of a human. Commodus was the worst emperor ever. And he wanted to rename Rome. So he by the time he finished, consolidating, he gave himself 12 names and then changed the names to all the months so that he was the name of each month. Right? I mean, we could go on and on. He said, you're no longer Romans, you're Comedians. Commodians. I can't remember. Yeah, comedians. Romans were wacky and filled with hijinks. Okay, so anyway, Clement writes, quote, from the Lord's birth to the death of the Emperor Commodus comprises 194 years, 1 month, and 13 days. So if you take all of that backward from the assassination of Commodus, and you know what I think I remember? I think the guy who killed him was named Narcissus, which is so ironic. And I'm not 100% sure on that, but I'm pretty sure. Okay, so if you calculate it backwards based on the assassination of Commodus on December 31st, 192, that would put Jesus' birthday at November 18th, 3 BC. Again, what's the problem there? They really had trouble long-term with the calendar. Every few years, well, not every few, I don't know how many years, but they'd stop and go, it's April. Now, we've decided it's April again. Clement also reports there were some who said that Jesus' birth occurred, quote, on the 25th of the Egyptian month of Pagan, which would correspond to May 20th. He then further says that some followers of Gnostic Christianity said that it was on the 24th or 25th of the Egyptian month of I can't pronounce it, which would put him at April 19th or 20th. Hitler's birthday. Holy crap, I just caught that. Isn't that Hitler's birthday?
Yeah.
Yeah, let me just say, oops, those wacky Gnostics. So what we see is that by the end of the century, 2nd century, there were a lot of theories about Jesus' birth. And I can just do this all day, guys. I can. There's a million of these, right? Hippolytus of Rome in 204, quote, the first advent of our Lord in the flesh when he was born in Bethlehem was 8 days before the calends of January, the 4th day, while Augustus was in his 42nd year. So now the calends, guys, was the 1st day of the month, and 8 days before January 1st, December 25th. So that's the first record we have where a church official says, let's go with the 25th. Okay? I don't know. I can give you a million of these. What's the key? Well, for us, what we try to do is pull the Americanism out of it. Birthdays are important to us. We're a wealthy, successful society, and so we celebrate birth, and we celebrate specifics of birth. This was a poor, beleaguered society where survival was much more important, and as a result of that, things like this just didn't matter. What matters? God did the most insane thing possible, right? Our human condition was the problem. Our human nature is the problem. So he took it on. And by Jesus being conceived in the womb, his divinity fired through all human nature. And he took the human experience and made it divine, if it's not related to sin. It's extraordinary what God did. We have no equivalent. Like I heard a priest one time say, it's like us becoming an ant. No, the gap is bigger than that. And it's like us becoming a tiny microscopic thing that wants to kill us in order to save us, right? This is so crazy beautiful what our God did. This is why we bow every time we say the words at Mass that he took flesh and was born of the Virgin, right? We bow because this is insane. This is love. And we're so blessed to have a God like this, right? I could go on and on. I do want to point out, do you mind if I say hello to, because we got some people from far away today. We've got one person listening all the way from Montrose, Michigan. That's my sister. New Mexico. Way to go, New Mexico. Monroe, Michigan, where I used to go for the muskrat dinner every year. Do you know about the muskrat dinner there? Delectable delights. New York is my New York here. Nice. Englewood, Florida. What is the weather in Englewood? I want to know. Because right now here it's 20 and raining. Do you know one of our astute listeners, Marilyn, her birthday is December 26th. Happy birthday coming soon to Marilyn. And thank you to all of you for the Christmas wishes for me and for the staff here of Holy Family and our digital parish. This whole thing is so glorious. We have someone here from Idaho. And is this time for me to tell the story of proposing to that girl in Idaho? I've told this story before. Have you all heard it? As a priest, I proposed to a woman in Idaho at a coffee shop. And the restraining order wasn't too strident after that. So I'm sorry for those of you who have to hear the story again, but I don't know if our Idaho person heard this. I don't know how old I was. I had to be 30-something, early 30s. I went to Idaho to do a wedding. And my plane was leaving at like 6:30 a.m. the next day. And I got after it a little bit at the wedding. I mean, I stayed up late, and I didn't get liquored up and start fights. I just started fights stone sober. No, I didn't get liquored up or anything, but I mean, we got after it, and there was dancing and eating, and I was watching dancing. You don't want me to dance, everyone will leave. And so that alarm goes off at 3:30, and I'd been asleep about an hour. Right? But I got to drive to the airport. And, you got to get there 13 hours early because you might be sneaking a bomb in your underwear. Boy, and you do that twice, and now you're on a list. But so I was pretty rough, and I was driving to the airport, and I see a 24-hour coffee place open. And it wasn't like, Beaners or we're not supposed to call it that anymore. What do we call it?
Starbucks.
No Starbucks, no Big B. This was a roadside place, so I got a cough. Sorry, hold on. I go in, and I asked if she had a triple red eye, right? 3 shots of espresso in a cup of coffee. And she said, and I quote, words that I will remember till the day I die. If you want, I can make a quad shot. And I don't know if I've ever heard anything so beautiful. So I reached across the counter, took her hands, and said, "Marry me." And she had the greatest response ever. She says, "Well, this is very sudden. Let's get the coffee first."
We really have to find this.
I know. If she's watching, and I don't even remember anything about how she looks. Because all I heard was, quad shot. So I drank my quad shot red eye on the way to the airport, and I just vibrated the whole way home. It was like, is that turbulence? No, that's caffeine. Hello to Saskatchewan. Is that my girl? No, she's in Nova Scotia.
Yeah, no.
Saskatchewan. Is Thunder... Didn't Heidi go to Saskatchewan? No. Isn't Brian Adams from Saskatchewan? Grand Rapids, is that my Martha? South Carolina, Ohio, and again, Idaho, home of the woman I'm engaged to. As soon as that restraining order is lifted. So thanks everybody for tuning in. What a hoot. I love you all, and I'm so blessed that we get to meet like this and have fun and hopefully learn. And a huge thanks again to Jimmy Aiken. What a beast of an article. And he's got 1 million of them on this topic. And I could go on and on. So, and of course, if I'm talking secular history, I got it from probably, well, no, there's so many books. I don't know. I've read way too much. Anthony Everett, Mike Duncan, Patrick Wyman, who's that? Bethany Hughes. Bethany. I always thought it was Bethany. It's Bethany. Bethany Hughes. I read all their stuff. So thank you for tuning in. Don't forget, you've got 2 holy obligations this weekend, right? You want to make sure today or tomorrow to get to Mass, right, for Christmas, and or tomorrow. You can go today and tomorrow. I'm preaching the same homily both days, so don't come to both of mine. What do I have? The 4 tonight and the 8 tomorrow morning, okay? And then on Sunday, it's the feast, Sunday! It's the Feast of the Holy Family, which is our patronal feast here at Holy Family. And so you want to make sure and hit, you got a question for me. I see that look, woman.
Asking if we're taking next week off? No.
Heck no. Are you people crazy? In fact, can I tell them?
Yeah.
It's kind of my hope. So next week we've scheduled very light. I'm tired. I am. I'm happy. In fact, I'm due any day now. But we're going to try to Carrie always says, we need to put some shows in the can. And that just sounds wrong to me. We're going to try to record some shows that we can just kind of let percolate, and then if I'm hit by a cement truck, like I so badly want to record a show for If I Die. That would be so cool, because I would start off, welcome to Quantum Keysis. If you're watching this, I'm dead. Wouldn't that be cool? And what if, like, there's a rapture? I should set one up. Hi, if you're watching this, I'm in heaven and you're screwed. Let's all talk about the love of God. So, what am I talking about? Do you remember? I don't know. So, what am I talking about? Isn't that funny?
You were just signing off.
Oh, yeah. Dad wants me to scream. It's his fault. It's you and Mom. Did I tell you about Mom and the stick shift?
No.
Okay, so everybody, this is my last story of the day. This is my Christmas gift to you. If you've watched this show and went, you know, we like him, but he's quite mad, it's my mother's fault. And my dad can testify that back in the day when I was a squiggly, we had this 66 Chevy truck, and it was a stick, because that's all God made. Right? This whole automatic thing, like with Carrie's push-button transmission, which is the worst, stupidest thing ever. I'm almost done griping about it. But Dad tells this story that Mom wanted to go see her sister and took me along. And back then, don't freak out, everybody. It wasn't, you know, car seats and seat belts. It was cigarettes and booze, you know. I'm just kidding. There was no booze. But, so Dad says, you know, he says, Joe, your mother wasn't the best at stick shift. So what he watched is I'm standing up in the passenger seat in the truck, right? And there's no crew cabs. We're bubbas. We're not city folk. Standing up, and my mom keeps slipping the clutch. And he said, Joe, every time your head went forward and then wham, hit that back window, right? Because that's all that was behind you was that big old window. And he said, and you just kept sliding down. Each time you'd hit harder and slide down. And that's what happened. It's a true story. And my mother's in heaven, right? And it's one of those things where I pray she finds me telling this story funny. My mom, a farm girl, couldn't drive a stick. That just cracks me up. Because she could work a tractor, but she couldn't work a standard clock. Anyway, okay. So thank you for tuning in. If you are interested, please subscribe to my YouTube feed. And if you could like the videos, or if you're listening on podcast, if you could rate them with the highest possible score. No, be honest. If you hate it, don't rate it. I just made a rhyme at this late time because I'm a poet and I know it and my feet show it because they're Longfellows and smell like the Dickens. So if you would, guys, this will help us get word out. And if you don't want to, it's okay. We don't want to get bigger. We just want to be faithful. Okay? Thank you for tuning in. I'm going to say a prayer, and then I will see you beautiful people either at our live mass tonight at 4 on TV?
Yep.
Okay. And then tomorrow at 10 with Father Lay, I believe.
Yep.
Oh, love that dude. Okay. Salad pray. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Jesus, you went all in on us. And even while we hated you, you loved us, and you came to our rescue, and we will never be grateful enough. Thank you for St. Joseph, greatest man. The one man who ever lived that you looked at and said, he can raise me. Thank you for our mother who held you in her womb. And God, thank you for the humility of putting yourself in a situation of total dependence on humans. We cannot perceive the depths of your love, but we sure can celebrate it. And help us to remember your name, Emmanuel, God with us, God on our side, God taking the blows, all of it. These next few days, if we are gathering with our family, bring peace. Help us to enjoy each other's company. If we're isolated because of sickness or fear of sickness, oh Lord, sit with us. Help us not be lonely. For all of those, Lord, who have family even dying in this time, give them hope. Hope in the resurrection and a conviction that love is eternal. For all those people we love and fret about, for all of those circumstances that we worry about, we give them to you, Lord. We love you and we trust you. And may Almighty God bless all of you, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you people at Mass tonight or at the show on Wednesday. Peace. Is it over?
No, it's never over.